September 11th will forever be remembered as a day of great tragedy in the U.S. But in the context of football, it's going to be remembered as something entirely different now, as it is the day that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles 4 plays into his tenure with the New York Jets. It occurred on Monday Night Football of Week 1 just last night at the time I'm recording this. It was a pretty ho-hum day in terms of the opening Sunday of football, with the only great game being the Dolphins versus the Chargers, and then the Sunday night game 40-0 Cowboys over the Giants. But then people were super looking forward to the Monday Night Football game, as it was Aaron Rodgers' debut as a New York Jet on 9/11, playing another New York team, the Buffalo Bills, playing them at the Jets' home stadium in Rutherford, New Jersey. I mean, how could you not be excited? This was the primetime game to watch on opening weekend. There was so much hype for the Jets. Whether you think it was overhype or something is a different conversation. But we obviously got to follow the team through Hard Knocks, and obviously it's Aaron Rodgers. Guy is a top 10 quarterback of all time, playing 18 years with the Green Bay Packers. Naturally, they came to the point where it's time to move on, and everyone's super excited to see him in the Big Apple, with the hopes of bringing the Jets, who had been a moribund franchise for the past decade or so, to the potential promised land of bare minimum playoffs, but there was definitely Super Bowl aspirations for that team. And in the context of how I saw this whole thing play out, I was at work. I work at Disneyland. We're in the break area. We were watching the game. We saw the epic thing of him coming with the American flag, the hype when he was getting introduced. It was like, wow. And then we get to see his first series, and it wasn't going great or anything like that. The New York Jets offensive line was notably very suspect, as we saw throughout training camp, Hard Knocks, and all that. On his 4th play, goes to do a drop back, gets sacked by, I can't remember who his name was, and he goes down. And it didn't look like it was any sort of crazy injury like that. It didn't look like his knee like snapped in half, or his leg snapped in half, or any kind of awkward injury like that. It looked like, if anything, he had maybe tweaked his ankle or something like that. Got up right away, then he went right back down. And everyone at work in our break area was like, oh, what's going on? Is he hurt already? And then we saw him walking out. I was like, oh, I guess it was kind of more than just a little tweak or something like that. But we just thought, well, it's just getting checked out, whatever. Little to say, we did not expect to see Zach Wilson playing only like a few snaps into this first game with Aaron Rodgers or whatever. Then you see him go on the cart, and it's like, oh my goodness, he's going to be out for a bit, if not the whole first quarter, first half, something like that. Then you hear the reports at halftime that, yeah, it's not looking great. He's in a boot, and he's actually ruled out for the game. And all the air just got sucked out of this game in the first half. It was just truly awful stuff. We didn't know that it was a full-on Achilles tear, but some of the stuff you were hearing reported from Adam Schefter, and just the tone and the vibes going on, it didn't sound great. And yeah, just the air just got sucked out of the building for this game. It was truly disappointing to see, just because of all the hype around this game. All of that. It was a primetime opponent, the Buffalo Bills, another contender, supposed contender in the AFC. And yeah, it was just like, wow, this just really sucks. Amazingly, the Jets were still able to win this game. They won it in overtime, a walk-off punt return in overtime by some rookies. I think his last name Gibson, who had seen in Hard Knocks and all that. It was truly a great ending. But as it was said afterwards, I think the Jets won the battle but lost the war, as it got confirmed that Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles about an hour ago on the day after, on a Tuesday, to the Tuesday right now that I'm recording this. As far as that game goes, I think that game said a lot more about the Bills. Kind of fraudulent contenders. They got a lot of flaws and whatever. But obviously the big story after the game is Aaron Rodgers. You heard Robert Saleh talk about, yeah, it doesn't seem good. Everyone, all the reports were just saying, like, yeah, just kind of bracing for the worst when it comes to the Achilles. And it ends up being, yeah, a torn Achilles. And with a torn Achilles, that means he is out for the whole season. And it would be a long road of rehab if he was to come back. And yeah, it's just truly awful stuff. Awful for everyone. Obviously awful for Aaron. Awful for Jets fans. They've been tortured so much throughout the last decade or so. And awful for NFL fans. There was so much hype put into the Jets, so much coverage. There was just so much to be like, even if you didn't think they were going to be great, which I had my doubts, mainly because they had a really tough schedule, you still wanted to see it. It's Aaron Rodgers in the Big Apple. How could you not want to see how this would play out, good or bad? Just all the dynamics going on with him being in a new team, trying to do what Peyton Manning or Tom Brady did, joining a new team, Hall of Fame quarterback, joining a new team and leading them to the promised land potentially. And all of that just gets thrown out, just taken away from fans. Only 4 plays into his tenure with this new team. And yeah, just the outlook for everything just doesn't look great. Because it's the outlook for the Jets and outlook for the Aaron Rodgers himself. You look at the outlook for the Jets. This was a team that you bring in Aaron Rodgers because you think he's the missing piece to win a championship. The Jets last year were having a very respectable, actually pretty good season, but due to bad quarterback play, they just sort of collapsed in the final month or so of the season and end up losing 6 straight. That's why you make the move to get Aaron Rodgers, because you think he can be that missing link with that bad play at quarterback they got last year and all that. And you think with all the pieces they added, bringing in Dalvin Cook, the receivers that they already had, all of that with a great defense, you think like, man, if we can get some great quarterback play, even just good, competent quarterback play, we're going to be contenders even in a loaded AFC. And their outlook going forward, their schedulers did not do them any favors, because you had the Bills as the first opponent, even though in theory, I guess looking at it now, maybe that wasn't such a hard game. But they were to play the Cowboys next, Patriots, Chiefs, going to play the Eagles. These would have been tough games with Aaron Rodgers, and then now without him, and who knows, I guess they're going to be going with Zach Wilson primarily for the next few weeks or so if they don't go to grab anyone. They're going to be facing a very challenging stretch going forward, and any Super Bowl aspirations, if they don't bring in another QB and they stick with Zach Wilson, you can just throw out. There's even talk about them going to go get Tom Brady. I'm like, Tom Brady didn't look great last year. And if you see him now, I think he just looks like he needs to eat a sandwich, because they showed him at the Patriots, ceremony on Sunday. And the guy just looks so goddamn skinny now. He needs to eat a sandwich or something. And plus, with him not doing any training right now and joining a new system, he's not familiar with Robert Saleh. He hasn't been in Nathaniel Hackett's system. He hasn't played with any of these receivers. I don't really think that's a viable option, Tom Brady. Believe it or not, I think their most best option is to stick with Zach Wilson, maybe bring in like a Carson Wentz or something like that as a backup QB, and just go from there and just try to make the most of the season, because the NFL still's got to go on, even with the disappointment of Aaron Rodgers' injury. As far as Aaron Rodgers, this is the thing that's really sad, is that as soon as you started to hear that it was an Achilles last night and you were just bracing for the worst, that it might be a tear, I just started to think, man, at age 39, going to be 40 in a few months, that his career might be over. Just in the fact that to come back from Achilles at age 40, that's just a lot of rehab. And when you're older, that rehab is hard. It's hard to even get back to the point where you can, be a competent player anymore when you get to that age. And plus, when he comes back, he can't come back and just be like a ho-hum player. The Jets brought him in to be like at least a very good QB. I don't know if they need him to be peak Aaron Rodgers of the past decade or so, but they need him to be good, obviously. And coming back from Achilles, that's ruined a lot of careers and just not the same, because you just have a lot of you just sucked out. And going forward with him, he was 90% in favor of retirement over the offseason. It was kind of the back and forth. Do I stay? Do I retire? And I guess just the all excitement of being part of the Jets, being part of something new, wanting to prove the Packers wrong. That's what made him come back. But then this Achilles injury, that's just a huge burden to come back from that, because rehab is definitely different from training. And if he was that close to retirement, man, this is going to be tough. Obviously, I think as fans, we'd love to see him come back, and that not be the final image that we see of him in terms of getting carted off and his career ending that way. I hope he comes back, but just saying that it's going to be very, very difficult for him, and it's very unfortunate just because all the stuff that there was to be excited for this season for the Jets. Even though I'm not a Jets fan, just the hype and seeing things play out, good or bad, it's disappointing for the Jets, disappointing for NFL fans, and super disappointing for Aaron Rodgers. We all wanted to see how things were going to go, and we just wish him the best in his recovery and all that good stuff. It's very unfortunate situation. Like I said, 9/11 is going to be remembered for something very different in terms of the NFL now.